And welcome back. So in this video, what we're going to focus on is how a line is affected by a change in slope, by a change in the y-intercept, or if we isolate x inside parentheses and then add a number to the value of x. Now, as we go through and we do these, to keep me from repeating myself too many times and making the video too long, is I really want you to focus on how can you be specific when you're talking about how you're going to explain the changes and what you notice. If you use the word steep, be very specific about what does it mean if something is getting steeper, more steep, or less steep. If something's getting flatter, how is it getting flatter? Don't just say flatter, don't just say steeper. You need to be very specific about what you're talking about. So let's get started on this. In this first folder, I just took the standard equation of y equals x and I manipulated the slope. And I changed the value of slope, having the number get larger, move away from 0. And when we talk about a number moving away from 0, again, we mean magnitude. So how is the magnitude of the number changing? And so here, this is the y equals x. And then we put up y equals 2x. So x, 2x. Then we do 4x. Okay. 6x. And then 10x. And again, I want you to be very specific what's going on when you go to explain yourself on how things are changing. Okay? Now here we're going to change the value of b, the y-intercept. So we have a fixed slope. So in this case we have x plus 2, x plus 4, and x plus 6. Okay, what can we say that's happening in all three of these lines as we change the value of b to plus 2, plus 4, and plus 6? All right, you can come back and take a look at these if you need to. Now in this one, we are talking about changing b with a fixed m, but in this case, the fixed value of the slope is 1/2. So here is 1/2 x plus 2. Here we're adding 4. And here we're adding 6. Okay, so what's happening when we add 2, 4, and then 6? Okay. This next one, we are changing the value of b again with a fixed value of slope, but in this case it's a negative 1/3. So here we're adding 1. Here we're adding 3. And here we are adding 5. So this is plus 1, plus 3, and plus 5. So you might want to take a look at these two folders together and think about how are things changing. Okay? Next folder. So here we're changing the slope, but we have a fixed y-intercept. So here we're subtracting 3 and our slope is 1. A slope of 1/2, y-intercept of a negative 3, 1/4, 1/10, and 1/50 for a slope. Again, how can we be very specific if we go to talk about these numbers? Again, if you have any questions, I'll be available when you are working later on. So here, x plus 1. Now we're going to change the slope. Again, we're fixed at a positive 1 with our y-intercept. Slope of 2. Slope of 5. A slope of 10. And a slope of 50. So how can we be very specific when we talk about what's changing here? And how can we describe that? All right. Now here we're putting x inside parentheses into a quantity, and then we're adding a number to that value. So here it's 1/4 x plus 1. What's happening when we add 1 inside here? What happens when we subtract 1 inside the parentheses? What happens when we add 4 inside the parentheses? What happens if we subtract 4 inside parentheses? Okay, we want to take a look at those, be able to describe what's happening in those cases. Here's some more examples. A negative 1/4 x. Now notice what happens when we put x inside the parentheses and we add 1 to it. Or we subtract 1 from it. If we add 4, or we subtract 4. Okay? And last, for you guys to take a look at, positive 1/4. Now notice what happens here. We've isolated x, okay? But now we're changing the y-intercept. Now this is completely different. And if we didn't take a look at what had happened before, then this would be really confusing. But think about order of operations. Order of operations says we do what's inside the parentheses first, then we do all multiplication, and then we do all addition or subtraction. So that means that we're dealing with this plus 1 first. Now what happens to the equation when we add 1? Then we multiply by 1/4. How does that affect the line? And then we're adding these numbers. We're subtracting 2 and then adding 2. And what's happening to the equation of the line when we're doing that? What happens to what the line looks like? So again, as we go through the next few exercises, I want you to be thinking about how can you be specific. And please come back to this video, take a look at these lines, skip around, and see if you can figure out what's going on. So, let me know if you have any questions, and let's get started on our next activity.